जगदम्बिका दुर्गा माता की जय. May I again, on behalf of members of the Sri Parameshwari Durga Devi Ashram Incorporated, on behalf of Charlie and all members of his household, his family, on behalf of members of the Saraswati Sangeet Bhakti Mandali, extend a most cordial welcome to all of you to our ongoing Devi Ratha Yatra festival. Tonight being the 8th night of the Mahanavratri, the Sharad Mahanavratri. It started last week, Wednesday. And in each night of the Navratri, so far we have been looking at the different avatars of Durga Mata. All Devis, all energy, all feminine energy has emerged from the form of Durga Mata. It is only when the Durga Mata Shakti came into existence that the Devis became manifested. So all Devis are in reality a part manifestation of Durga Mata. But there are 9 special forms that represent Sampur Shakti, or complete manifestations of the Divine Mother. And these are the 9 forms we have been looking at since we commenced our yatra. For those of you who are not aware, we have listed all of them in our publication, so you get everything you will get tonight is highlighted in here. So you can get a copy of this from, we have members of our congregation, and Charlie also has a copy of our Devi Vahini. And you will see highlights of our yatra and understand a little better what it is about. Before we go into the depths of tonight's discourse, let us clasp our hands together, close our eyes, bow our heads. Let us briefly meditate upon that form of Bhagwan Ganapati, he who is the giver of success, the remover of all forms of obstacles. We seek the blessings of Devi Saraswati. We meditate on the form of the Guru. And we secure the blessings of the Divine Mother Durga herself. Oh. Shri Gurave Namaha. Apatsu Maranam Smaranam Tvariram Karnomi Durge Karunanavishe Naitaccha Tattvam Mama Bhavaheta Sura Krishnarta Janani Smarante Om Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadrakali Kapalini Durga Shama Shivadatri Swaha Swadha Namostude Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shakti Rupena Sansrita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Daya Rupena Sansrita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Matre Rupena Sansrita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Om Aim Hrim Klim Chamundai Viche Namaha. प्रेम से बोलो आदि शक्ति जगदम्बिका माता की जय. Tonight, as mentioned, we are in Ashtami Tithi, and therefore the Ashtam means 8. So we are the 8th lunar day of the Navratri, and on the Ashtami, that avatar of Durga Mata that is worshipped is known as Maha Gauri Mata. Amongst the 9 major manifestations of Durga Mata, that is the 9 basic avatars of Durga Mata, that represents Durga Mata in her totality, Maha Gauri is the most worshipped amongst the Navadurgas. Most of you, when you do Durga Puja home, what color flag you will put at home? Most of you, when you do your house puja, what color flag you will put up? Yellow. You know why? Because you're worshipping Durga Mata as Gauri Mata. And therefore the color of Maha Gauri is yellow. During the Navratri, you see we have the red flag. Durga Mata's personal color is red. The different forms she has different colors. When you worship Durga Mata as Maha Gauri, the color is yellow. That is why when you do your Durga Puja, you use a yellow cloth, you wrap the coconut in yellow cloth. She is worshipped on the 8th Tithi of every Navratri. And this Gauri Mata in all pujas must be, her blessings must be sought. One of the first pujas you will do when you're doing your normal daily puja at home, the Pandit will do Ganesh Baba Siddhanasto, followed by you hear Gauri Ganesh Puja. Right? So Gauri Mata follows immediately after, then the Khalsa and so on. It is this form of Durga Mata that brought Bhagwan Ganapati into existence. That is why she is worshipped together with Ganesh. It is through this form of the Devi Ganesh got his authority, when he became the Pratama Devata. If you will recall briefly from Ganesh Puran. Remember when Ganesh was created, Lord Shiva was not around? So who brought Ganesh solely into existence? It was the Gauri form of Parvati Mata, Durga Mata. And after Shiva and Ganesh fought, and Ganesh lay dead on the ground, what was the condition for Gauri Mata to give up her rage? Ganesh must have something unique that no other Devta has. Isn't that so? Ganesh Utsav now done, and I surely hear these things already. Right? So these are not strange things. And what was that blessing? Among all the Devtas, he will be Pratama Devta. He will be the first among all the Devtas. So this was a unique blessing given to Ganesh. Gauri Mata presides over matrimonial relationship. And what do we mean by matrimonial relationship? Marriage. If you get in trouble getting a suitable life partner, or you're already married but you're having trouble specifically with the husband or the wife, we're not talking about the children, or the in-laws, or the extended family. When you have problems along that area, you worship Skanda Mata, and we deal with that already in the previous nights. But when there is conflict between husband and wife in particular, or boy or girl staying too long in your house and they can't get a suitable life partner, you worship Gauri Mata. They fall in your garden tonight, boy. I hope all you, well, at least I wonder if members of the ashram pay attention to what goes on. And I hope especially most of the organizing committee, the Yatra unit. Many people put down their names to do the Yatra. And when time comes to have the meeting, some will accept and some will cancel. And so far, every night of the Yatra has been to a venue where that form is needed the most. There are some venues we went to, the blessings of Shaila Putri Mata was needed and it went there appropriately, without we being planning that. All we was looking is to make transport easy and the direction it must flow. After, when they sit down and they're talking and telling me, well, this is what was happening. And so it is the will of the Divine Mother herself that she goes where her blessings is needed the most. And so Mahagauri, through her blessings, a life partner that is compatible to you. And when we say compatible, we're not only talking you go by Baba and check Patra. That is just one aspect of compatibility. Because Patra wouldn't tell you how you behave. It wouldn't tell you about your personality. It wouldn't tell you about what habits you have. Isn't that so? A relationship will not involve spiritual compatibility alone. Your attitude, your behavior, your personality, your likes and dislikes, all of those things determine whether you can have a good relationship with somebody or not. The more you have in common with that person, the more harmonious the relationship will be. Isn't that so? Even your socio-economic status influence the type of life you have in marriage. Take for example, and we have seen it happen many times, and don't think it's a thing of the past. The class is very much, economic class in this country is very much well and alive. Eh? Very often you'll see girls from very poor backgrounds, they get having good relationship with guys from rich background, or vice versa, and the parents of one side will object to that marriage. So when these type of problems come, you worship Mahagauri Mata. And in our scriptures, it is recommended from the time your daughter or son becomes a teenager, from the time their body starts to undergo transformation to become an adult, you should introduce them to the worship of Gauri Mata. Because as we would see, Gauri Mata also controls some of the impulses that can get you in trouble. But more so, when the time comes for marriage, because you have done devotion to her from the time you were very young, her blessings would have accumulated. So when time for that, when that appropriate time comes for you to settle down, you will have the correct person coming into your life. Among the avatars of Durga Mata, Mahagauri, she fulfills the legitimate desires of all of her devotees. But in such a way, she continues to whatever your heart's desire, she gives you. But she gives you in such a way that you will get what you ask for, but in a way that you will still be able to attain liberation or salvation. So for example, you have some people who pray to become millionaires. You might get barakat in your home enough to take you through this lifetime. You will always have food on your table, clothes to wear, a place to sleep. You will always have enough resources to take care of yourself. So she blesses you like that. She being the mother of the universe, she gives the children according only what they need, and to the extent to which it would not become a burden to them. So the form of Mahagauri, especially her puja, is very important for all married couples to perform. And it's a puja that is best done in your home. Because at the end of the day, where the family resides, at home, so the husband-wife relationship will remain intact. When time comes to perform your Vivaha Samskar, that is your marriage ceremony, that Matikur night, what happens on that night? Why is the boy or girl dressed in yellow and the puja is done on the baby, and at the end of it all you smear them with saffron, hardi? Why? Have you all ever stopped to understand or try to find out what is the significance of this? Or you still follow in the old time tradition, monkey see, monkey do? Huh? Gone are the days where you just follow blindly, you know. You have to understand the reason why you do. You may be comfortable within your mind. It is not important for me to know. But the day your child asks you a question and you cannot answer, it will be very embarrassing to you. That's one. And secondly, immediately you would have lost the authority to tell that child what to do where their dharma is concerned when you yourself don't understand what you are doing. If every day you tell your child, go and light the diya, and one day the boy or the girl get big enough and brave enough to ask you, Mommy, Daddy, why I had to light that diya for? And you just toss them and say, look, shut your mouth and go and light the diya. Huh? You expect that child to have any respect for lighting that diya? Huh? Not in this modern age and time. You have to know why you are doing that before you can teach somebody its importance and its value. So sometimes parents will come and they'll bring their adult children and we say, you don't want to go Sunday service, you don't want to do puja, you don't want to do yag. When you bring them at that age and they're complaining to me, what you want me to do? Who are they getting bull person? Not the child, you know. If you had done your work as a parent, you wouldn't be complaining. Because what you didn't teach them when they're 4 or 5 years old, you expect them to do it when they get 20, 30 years. If you didn't put them with you when you're doing puja in your house, or take them to Sunday service, do expect them to do it when they get big man and woman. Because you didn't set the example, you didn't teach them the importance of it. Therefore, don't expect them to do it. So you cannot blame them at that age. And this is one of the things Mahagauri does. She ensures that the family tradition remains intact. Now Mahagauri Mata, once you have entered into family life, she does not tolerate transgressions of the Grihast Ashram. That is, if you are mature enough to know that you are ready to get married and you willingly get married, live a married life. One of the reasons why we have so many problems in so many households today, far too many married couples still want to live life the way they do when they were single. And very often you hear the trade of the arms and bawling. Well, you think I do have a life? I have you to study? At the end of the week, you want to go online. If you're going to line, go as a family unit. Or you want to do things you are accustomed doing when you were single. Too many people rush into marriage without proper thinking. And too many people nowadays do a lot of things without even thinking through. That is why sometimes there's so much of chaos in our society. So Mahagauri, by performing that puja in your home, she enables the devotees to enjoy good health, wealth, prosperity, pleasure in this world, and in the hereafter still attain salvation. She presides over the harmonious relationship between married couples, and through her blessings, those who worship her that are not married, only the appropriate partner will come into their life. So tonight's discourse, we'll go over a little bit of Devi Bhagavatam, and we'll highlight one of the Leelas of Mahagauri. Tonight you're going to hear one that is not at all very popular. Many of the kathas of Mahagauri, for example, we told you about how she brought Lord Ganesh into existence. You all know that one. There are many, many other kathas of Gauri Mata. But in order to show you how Mahagauri affects your personal life beyond marriage, it is important to understand this particular Leela which I'm about to narrate to you. Sri Sukadev Maharaj is narrating to Janmejai, and they have reached that part of their discussion on topics of Mahagauri. And this topic took them the longest, because Sri Sukadev Maharaj is telling Janmejai many episodes of Mahagauri, and so they reached this one. Let us hear what Sri Sukadev Maharaj is telling Janmejai. Shri Durga Sharanam Namah, Shri Durga Sharanam Namah, Shri Durga Sharanam Namah, Shri Durga Sharanam Namah. प्रेम से बोलो जगदम्बिका माता की जय. So one day, Gauri Mata, accompanied by her two friends, Jaya and Vijaya, and these two friends, their names are important. By worshipping Gauri, Jaya and Vijaya also is there. What is Jaya and Vijaya? Jaya means what? Victory, and Vijaya means absolute victory. So Jaya and Vijaya, they always accompany Gauri Mata. Gauri Mata, Lord Shiva had left and gone to do his meditation as usual. And Gauri Mata decides, after taking care of the household chores and so on, it is time to have a bath. She decides to go to Gangotri. And Gangotri is the source of the Ganga in Mount Kailash. And as she makes her way to Gangotri, the rishis that have settled along the foothills of Mount Kailash, they have established their ashrams, they have their family, and a little village spring up in that area. And as she is making her way, she is noting homes are burning, and she's seeing dead animals and people lying all in the road and so on. Fire was all around, and a lot of screaming, people running in panic and fear. So she decides to investigate, only to realize that this destruction was being caused by Rahu. And what was he doing? He was plundering and destroying and murdering. Why was he doing this? This episode took place after the churning of the ocean. And as you would know, after the churning of the ocean, Rahu's body was cut into two, right? Remember, he disguised himself and in order to get the Amrit. When Lord Vishnu realized that Rahu was in the disguise of a Devta, what did he do? He released the chakra and the head of Rahu was cut. So the head became Rahu, remained Rahu, and the body became Ketu. Rahu was very much upset, and he decided he's going to destroy everybody. He's telling himself, if I have to exist like this, if I have to suffer like this, nobody can be happy. And so he starts raining his terror all over. Mahagauri, she witnessing all of this. Bring one another mic. Bring one another mic. Mahagauri Mata realizing that Rahu the Divine Mother realized that Rahu is out on destroying life itself. She decides to put an end to the evil work of Rahu. So right there and then, the shadow from her body came forward. And what does he call of your shadow? Huh? Dark in complexion. By the way, what is the meaning of Gauri? Huh? Gauri is very fair. It's like how these white people look. Not just Gauri means very, very fair. So this form of Durga Mata is almost like a white person. And therefore the shadow, now even regardless of what color you is, what is the color of your shadow? Dark in complexion, right? So the shadow of Mahagauri took form and became a Devi. But no name was assigned to her as yet. And she says, "Oh Devi, I assign the task of you to subdue the destructive work of Rahu." And so, this Devi, she went forward, armed with a sword in her hands. And as she challenged Rahu. Rahu would run away and hide in Naglok. But Rahu and the Nagas, they are very close. And so the Nagas, they have given Rahu a boon. That, "O Rahu, you will have unrestricted access to Naglok. And the only person who will be able to follow you, you will not be able to bring anybody into Naglok though. The only person who will be able to follow you into Naglok is those persons who look just like you." So what was Rahu? What was Rahu now? And he was just a head? Right. And this goddess, she has a complete human form, isn't that so? So what do you think will transpire? Every time she challenged Rahu, he would run away and hide in Naglok. Because he knows she cannot enter into Naglok unless she has a form just like his. And so she would leave and go back there, Gauri Mata, and report to her that Rahu had disappeared from the earth. He's hiding somewhere which I don't have access to. And when all appears to be calm, Rahu would come back and he would start his mischief all over again. And so the goddess would challenge him again. And every time she challenged him, he would run away and hide. And so Gauri Mata, she's becoming very fed up with Rahu's behavior. And she says, "Oh Devi, find some way Here and now, find some way whereby you can put a permanent end to Rahu's destruction. And what happens? Let us hear. Shri Durga Sharanam Namah, 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 Rahu Kira Nagarokaya Chinnamatika Nashakitaya Lokadihaya Agni-hitaya Nashanadika Mukadihaya Shri Durga Sharanam Namah, 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 Shri Durga Sharanam Namah. Praise Guru Jagadambika Mata Ki Jai. So what happens? Every time the goddess goes away, Rahu will come out of Naglok and he will create his mischief. So this time the goddess decides, enough is enough. And so what did she do? She realized that Rahu is exploiting the boon that he has received. He's misusing it. So she's going to teach him a lesson now. You know, every time, and history of our scriptures has shown, every time you think you can outsmart God, you resent outsmarting who? Yourself. And Ravan thought he could outsmart God. Hiranyakashipu, he planned so good. He said he don't want it dead in the morning, in the night, he don't want it dead in top or underneath, by man or animal. And then God come in a form that he fulfill all the requirements. So Rahu is exploiting the boon that was given to him. And this part here is an important lesson. Sometimes we are privileged to have certain blessings in life, and instead of using it to promote good and well-being of ourselves and our family, we use it to boast and to show off and to suppress and to oppress others. And when you misuse the resources that God has given you to hurt others, either physically or psychologically, in your next life, when you're reincarnated, that karma is going to fall on who? On you. So sometimes I keep telling people, when you look at TV and you see little children and they getting blown up abroad, or right here in Trinidad, people getting killed, yes, the humanness in us will feel the compassion, but Vedanta teaches us nothing happens coincidentally. It is merely from an intellectual point of view, karma bearing its fruits. So Rahu was exploiting what he had to the detriment of others. And Mahagauri, she decides to teach him a lesson, that you must not waste the boons, you must not waste the blessings that are given to you. All of us, no matter what our station is in life, there are things we are good at and things we are not so good at. It is up to us to use those opportunities or those things that we are good at to see whatever little we can do to develop ourselves, our family life, and by extension our community. So as Rahu came out of Naglok this time, he was challenged. And knowing, he knows to himself he cannot fight the might of the Divine Mother. So what does he do? As she approaches with the sword in the upraised position, he decides to run away this time again. He ran into Naglok because he knows she can't enter in that form. So what do you think she do? The same sword she had in her hand, she took it and cut her own head and cut it with the other hand. What was the boon Rahu had? Only that person or that being that appears like you will be able to enter into Naglok. And Rahu was nothing more than a head. So look at what happened now. She takes the head, felt it into the direction of Rahu. And will the head now be able to enter into Naglok? Yes, because now it is just in the same form of Rahu. So she enters into Naglok. I can imagine the panic Rahu was under now. From her third eye, the fiery rope came, bound him, and she took him to Mahagauri Mata. When Mahagauri looked at the sacrifice this Devi made to bring an end to Rahu's destruction, she says, "Oh Devi, from today the world will worship you as Chinnamastika, and you shall become one of the 10 Mahavidyas, one of the 10 great bodies of infinite knowledge." And those of you who are a bit familiar with Vishnu Puran, you'll know Parshuram had to do 2 tapasya before he could eliminate the Kshatris. He worshipped Lord Shiva and got the axe, the parashu. But to get the blessings to actually bring an end to the Kshatris, he worshipped this form of the goddess. And she told him, "Oh Parashuram, use the axe, go around the world 21 times and eliminate those who violate Dharma." Rahu bound it in this fiery rope. Mahagauri, armed with a Trishul now, she raises the Trishul when suddenly Bhagwan Shiva intervenes. And what did Bhagwan Shiva intervene for? Let us hear. Shri Durga Sharanam Namah, Shri Durga Sharanam Namah. Shri Durga Sharanam Mahadevam Veerahureksha Rakshanahira Grahanashatram Graharajyakiha Marakinaya Varam Varam Rahukaya Shri Durga Sharanam Namah 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 Shri Durga Sharanam प्रेम से बोलो जगदम्बिका दुर्गा माता की जय. So Bhagwan Shiva, he intervenes at this point in time. So what do you think he will do now? Rahu is tied up in a fiery rope and Gauri Mata has the Trishul over him like this. What Lord Shiva is going to do? He is going to take out some weapon to and cut it here? Huh? No. Bhagwan Shiva says, "Oh Devi, I plead with you, do not destroy Rahu." So you may ask yourself, he's doing so much of wickedness and Lord Shiva begging for him? Now this is the nature of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is said to be Karuna avatar. What is the meaning of the word Karuna? He who is compassionate. And you say the mantra, some of you, Karpura Gauram, Karuna Avataram, Sansara Saram, Bhujagindrahara. The Karuna avatar is Bhagwan Shiva, the embodiment of mercy and compassion. So, Lord Shiva intervenes and said, "Oh Devi, I plead with you, do not destroy Rahu. I agree he's supposed to be punished for his transgression and he deserves it in every way. But oh Devi, I make this plea unto you only for the stability of life upon earth and the cosmos." So what does Rahu has to do with all of this? After Lord Vishnu had decapitated Rahu, Rahu complained that all of them worked together for the Amrit and only the Devatas got it. And so the case was heard and said, well, all the deceive and fighting and all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, Brahma decides that, oh Rahu, yes, you did work, that have to account for something. And therefore, I elevate you to the status of a Graha. And so the Grahas, they must, all 9 Grahas, the Now Grahas, they all must work together to allow everything on this earth to function properly. That is why when you're doing any puja, the Navgraha Devata puja is that 9 pan leaf that Pandit would set up on the front. All the other pujas will be done to the back, but on that 9 pan leaf in the front, the 9 energies of the Grahas are worshipped there. And Rahu and Ketu are one of those Grahas. So Bhagwan Shiva was asking Gauri Mata that, oh Gauri, Rahu has a cosmic function, and if you were to destroy him, then the stability of the cosmos will be in jeopardy. And so Gauri Mata, she's saying that, oh Mahadev, what assurance are you going to give me if I release Rahu he will not return to his evil ways. Because the minute she released him, you know what's going to happen again. So Bhagwan Shiva says, "O Devi, I hereby give you my word that my fifth avatar, together with you, shall be the presiding deity over the Graha Rahu." And because Rahu is negative, he behaves in a negative way by nature. That is his natural behavior, to be destructive. He will be one of the grahas to give the results of negative karmas. So most of the time when you go by Baba, Baba tell you have a graha. Most of the time it's either Shani, Rahu, Ketu graha. Isn't that so? When you go by Baba, most of the time there is either Shani graha or Rahu graha or Ketu graha. Why? These are these three planetary energies. They are there not to give you pressure in life, but to give you exactly what you deserve at the appropriate time. The good graha, the planets that give good results, they only allow your good karmas to bear fruits at certain stages of your life when you deserve it. Similarly, the grahas that are responsible for giving you, causing suffering, gives you the results of your bad karmas at certain stages of your life. So they can only affect you based on the nature of your own karma. Shani cannot harm you if you don't have bad karma. Instead, he will give you good results. And you'll hear later on that when Rahu is given good results, some of the good things he gives. So Bhagwan Shiva says, "O Devi, I give you the assurance that my fifth avatar and you, together with you, shall preside, will be the presiding deity over Rahu." Now all the grahas, they have their presiding deities and so on. So for example, if you have Surya Graha, you will worship Lord Vishnu as the accompanying deity. If you have Chandra Graha, you will worship Lord Shiva Somanath as the accompanying deity. If you have Mangal Graha, which is the deity that accompanies Mangal, Bhagwan Hanuman, and so on, right? So the different grahas, they have the different presiding deities. That is why when Rahu becomes life-threatening in your horoscope, we tell you do a lot of Durga Mata worship, because she has the ability to control this negative aspect of Rahu. And she does it together with that incarnation of Bhagwan Shiva. Lord Shiva has 11 major forms, just as Durga Mata has 9 major forms. Lord Vishnu has 10 major forms. Lord Shiva has 11 major forms. And it's important you get to know some of them. For example, most of us here, we worship the 11th form of Bhagwan Shiva. Who is the 11th incarnation of Lord Shiva? Bhagwan Hanuman. He's a Ekadash Rudra. Another one that is also popularly worshipped and it's compulsory to be worshipped when Durga Mata is worshipped, the Pancha Maharudra Avatar. The 5th incarnation of Lord Shiva is who? Bhairava Baba. The 5th avatar of Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is saying his Pancha avatar or his 5th incarnation, Bhairava Baba, will also preside over Rahu. And just for discussion's sake, another form of Shiva, all of us will have to face one day. The 8th incarnation of Bhagwan Shiva is who? Yama. Right? So these are different avatars of Bhagwan Shiva. So now look at the position Rahu is in. On one side you have Goddess Chinnamastika and Gauri Mata. And on the other side, you have Lord Shiva and Bhairava Baba now. You think he could afford to play the fool now? Huh? Any direction he turns now is blows. So Mahagauri, hearing the promise of Lord Shiva, she was contented and satisfied that with the intervention of Bhairava Baba, the negative energy of Rahu can be and will be contained. Now if you to understand Bhairava Baba's temperament, you have to go to Shiv Puran. Lord Shiva is telling Sanat Kumar about Bhairava Baba, and he says, Lord Shiva's quotation in Shiv Puran is, when Sanat Kumar is telling, oh Bhagwan, your Rudra form of Bhairava looks very ferocious. Shiva is saying, yes, it's very ferocious. He will punish you first, and if he cares to question you, then he may do so. That is the nature of Bhairava Baba. Sanat Kumar asked, what about those who may receive or be victims in unfortunate circumstances? He says, Bhairava Baba is equipped, he's Mahakal. And the reason why he's called Kaleshwar, he's the Lord. You ever wonder why time doesn't stand still? Huh? Don't tell me the clock stop, Right. Time is never still and it never goes backward. It's always in a forward motion. And it is Bhairava Baba that pushes time forward. That is why he's called Kala Bhairava. Kal means time. And Lord Shiva is saying, because he's the master of time, he knows you better than yourself. He knows the karmas you're coming into the world with. He knows what your intentions are. He knows what you are supposed to achieve in this life. And if he's pleased with you, he guides you. However, if you should be the victim of his punishment, know it is because of your karmas, your transgressions. So Lord Shiva is clearing up immediately. He's not a madman to start beating from left, right and center. And that is why, and further down in other scriptures you hear why he is very personally attached to Durga Mata. That is a katha for another occasion. So Mahagauri was satisfied with the response of Bhagwan Shiva, and she instructs Chindamastika to release Rahu. And there Rahu took that vow that, oh Goddess, oh Mahagauri, oh Shiva, oh Rudra, I pledge from today forward that I shall not act against your will. And so Bhagwan Shiva said, oh Rahu, all you have to do is act in accordance with the karmas of those you influence. And that shall be your cosmic duties. And so Rahu was released. But always following close behind was who? Bhairava Baba. So Rahu knew he could not misbehave. Now, what is Rahu in reality? Today, and I keep telling you, you must understand. And if you cannot explain satisfactorily to your children, you are going to lose their respect. You just heard about the churning of the ocean and somebody's head getting cut out and things, right? And when we have things like eclipse and so on, we say Rahu swallow the sun or the moon, or Ketu swallow the sun or the moon. On the days of an eclipse, any child could now go on the computer and see the eclipse happening in front of them on the screen. and they will give you the time, and they will show you actually how the sun or the moon is blocking the light, or how the earth or the moon is blocking the light, depending on which eclipse it is. And if you're telling your children in this 21st century that Rahu swallowed the sun or the moon, and you're not able to explain what is Rahu or Ketu, then it's better you shut up and don't say nothing at all. Because you're going to shame and embarrass yourself, and you run the risk of your children losing respect for you, because they say mommy and daddy are knowing what they're doing, and they're doing stupidness, and they're doing superstition. And when they start to think like that, it's because you put that idea in your head. How you put the idea in your head? You yourself did educate yourself how to know them things. So what is this Rahu? Is Rahu real or imaginary? I don't know the answer, no? Huh? Is Rahu real? Okay. We tell you our scripture teaches that when there is an eclipse, Rahu swallow either the sun or the moon, right? So I'm asking you, do eclipse occurs? Do we have eclipse? So, okay, let me ask you the next one. Rahu and Ketu, are they real? Yes, because we scriptures say so. So let me see if science can prove it now. What is Rahu? Rahu, now if you're a student of astronomy, you would know that when the sun and the earth, they are in certain distance from each other, and when the arc of the orbit intersects, you call that either the ascending node of the moon or the descending node. Again, it depends on whether you know the eclipse of the sun or the moon. Rahu is the ascending node of the moon. When the full moon, the sun and the earth are at certain mathematical points from each other, that alignment is said to be the ascending node of the moon and Rahu. And because everything is in a perfect line, the light from the sun will be blocked by the moon. So the astronomical calculation or the degrees on which that alignment occurs, that degree, that specific degree is a mathematical point that can be calculated by astronomers. That is how I could sit down here and tell you from Patra which month we're going to have an eclipse. That is how I could tell you 2-3 years down the road what day an eclipse of the moon could occur, what day the eclipse of the sun will occur. We can do that through calculations. And what do we use? These degrees. And what do these degrees measure? They measure the magnetism that pulls the earth, the sun and the earth and the moon in direct alignment. So if it is an eclipse of the moon, it is the ascending node of the moon, and we say Rahu has swallowed the moon. If it is on the descending node is simply the opposite of Rahu, which is Ketu. Where the sun, the earth and the moon comes in alignment with the descending node of the moon, and you get an eclipse of the sun. So there is a science behind it. Now what our rishis did many thousands of years ago, because not everybody is scientifically inclined by way of thinking, they take these scientific truths and they develop little stories around it, and they teach it to the common person, so they will at least remember a story rather than remembering scientific facts and figures. But hidden in the story are scientific truth. When you read in Vishnu Puran and you hear Lord Vishnu lying on a bed of serpents, the earth is supported by a 1,000-headed snake. And a child again could go up on the computer and dial up the earth and look at it and see if a snake really holding up the earth. If you go and tell your child that and you are not able to explain, your child is going to laugh at you Or he's going to tell his friends will embarrass him. I say, what stupid is he talking? That old people talk. What is the universe? Lord Vishnu is God is the universe. What is that 1,000-headed serpent that supports the earth? You ever see a picture of Sheshnag, how the heads are thrown? In all directions, right? Forward, backward, sides. Which object you know gives that type of pattern? How many of you did CXC physics? Or not even CXC, Form 2, Form 3 physics? And we take you into the lab and we tell you we want to do magnetic line of fields. To demonstrate to you how magnetic fields go. We'll put a paper with a bar magnet on it and scatter some iron filings. And what you'll notice, you'll see the patterns emerging. Sheshnag is the forces of gravity and magnetism of the earth that protects the earth from all those cosmic radiation. It is gravity that gives stability to everything. You ever wonder why the planets go bounce into one another? That is because of gravity. And different planets have different gravitational field. So the whole cosmos is supported by gravity, and gravity transforms into magnetism, which shields the different planets to varying extent from radiation. And all planets has its own magnetic field. So this is what the Sheshnag is about. So when we say a 1,000-headed snake holding up the earth, we are literally meaning to have a 1,000-headed snake in space holding up the earth. Because NASA would have done send that picture of a snake holding up the earth already. Again, not everybody is inclined to scientific thoughts and reasoning and logic, so rishis bring it down in a story form where people who are not too intelligent or not too higher order thinking can understand it and benefit from it still. So this is how you interpret your scriptures, and this is how you see the greatness of your scriptures. So when you sit down nowadays to talk with your children, you will have an idea of one, you will know what you're talking about, and you'll be able to educate your children. And when they go now and tell that we book tell you it has something called gravity and magnetism, and you picture a child in standard 1 telling his friends about gravity and magnetism, and you come home and that child come home and tell, well, and I talk about something that even this answer was impressed about, think about how you could feel. And when that child feels good, that is an motive and an encouragement. I should find out more about that thing. But if every time you tell him a story, you want to tell your friends and them and that makes sense, and they laugh at him, or even within his mind, he know that they're really making sense. You think he going and say anything? You just say, leave the old man alone now. So Rahu and Ketu, they are not physical grahas. There's a difference between a planet and a graha. Most of you will say, Baba, check my planet. But we know what you mean in local parlance. But in reality, a planet and a graha is different. Rahu and Ketu are grahas. And so too is Surya, the sun, the moon, planet Mars. They are Mars, Venus, Jupiter, they are called planets as well as grahas. A planet has a physical form. A graha does not need a physical form. Can you see a mathematical magnetic field in the in space? You could use a telescope and you could see Venus, you could see Jupiter, you could see Mars. Actually right now some countries have satellites and objects on planet Mars. But can you use a telescope and see a magnetic field in dark space? No. You need scientific instruments to measure that type of energy, electromagnetic radiation and electromagnetic field patterns. It is not something visible. The magnetic fields that you will see, we do in the experiment we do in the lab with the iron filings. It is only when you scatter the iron file and then you will see the pattern that the magnetic field creates. Isn't that so? But is that the real magnetic field, or is it just a pattern of its outline? It's just a pattern of its outline, because it is something you cannot see with the physical eyes. Just like current running through that wire over there. Can you see electricity running through the wire? But you know it is there. Because when Charlie touches it and the ball, we know he gets shocked. So too, some things you just cannot see or use the senses to perceive, but other instruments and other faculties of our own makeup can detect it. Take for example an emotion. Let me say emotion of anger. Can you hold anger in your hand? Huh? Nobody could feel it, right? Same thing with happiness. You ever hear somebody go to the ocean and say, come to buy a pound of happiness? Huh? If you do that, they will say, I'll send you a sentence. Well, it depends on where they go, yeah? Because I know that fellas, when they get a paycheck, they go Friday in the bar. They're getting more than a pound of happiness. So some things are abstract and we cannot perceive it with our senses. And so these Rahu and Ketu, they are not physical bodies, but they have a profound effect on us. So how does this Mahagauri and her control of Rahu influence our personal life? Well, we just told you that Mahagauri, she deals with husband-wife relationship, matrimonial relationship. And when a Rahu, one of his negative qualities, he creates separation. Right? So when Rahu is threatening the stability of your home, you can worship Mahagauri to overcome that negativity. When Rahu is good, he makes you very brave and very courageous. He gives opportunity for those of us who like to do business abroad. He makes you prosper in foreign trade. He makes you resilient in the face of adversity. And he allows you to stand up for the less fortunate in society. You wouldn't expect something like this from Rahu. But when this is when Rahu is under the control of Mahagauri Mata and he's given good results. These are some of the things Rahu gives as a good trait. Rahu's natural qualities now. A bad Rahu will cause one to become a drug addict, prone to all types of poisoning, suffer from all types of infections, prone to all types of viruses and epidemics. Rahu will cause one to abandon their life mission. Rahu will cause one to adopt false identity. And what we say by false identity from a scripture point of view, you're born into a particular religion and you want to convert, you adopt a false identity. And Rahu, that is one of the negative aspects of Rahu. Rahu causes you to have unnatural and unorthodox relationships. What do we mean like that by unnatural and unorthodox? Unnatural, you understand what that means, right? It is not normal. Unorthodox is something not sanctioned. And what is unorthodox and unnatural relationships in our society today? You see them fellas who just have boyfriend? Or them girls who just have girlfriend? Or them fella, or them it, who just want to be man and woman at the same time? Huh? That is unnatural and unorthodox. In our scripture, it is condemned in every possible way. Now if I were to do a quotation from Manu Smriti, you will say Hinduism very barbaric. But you know how Manu say you must deal with them? Them fellas deserve the death penalty. In Manu Smriti is written, the family in which such an individual is born must be exiled and the individual must be destroyed. And if you go and preach that in society today, you know what they will say? Because you know all them big countries and them. And you know what the bigger so-called developed countries do? It doesn't matter the time before you come down here, you know. Right? It did already. It ain't legal yet. But in a matter of time, It will happen. So now when people come to put wedding, I say, who are you going to marry? Because I don't do that wedding at all. I say, bring the person let me see. And if I still can't figure it out, I say, book something else. Now we're making a laughing matter, but in reality, Rahu governs those type of behaviors. And that is the negative aspect of Rahu. To overcome the negative influence of Rahu in all possible ways, the worship of Mahagauri and worship of Bhairava Baba is essential to curtail the negative energies of Rahu. Principle Jagadambika Mata Ki Jai. So briefly we discussed the avatar of Durga Mata as Mahagauri, the presiding deity of today, the 8th day of the Navratri. Tomorrow we'll have the 9th form of the Devi and the 9th and final avatar of Durga Mata, which will be discussed at tomorrow's host venue. Adi Shakti Durga Mata Ki Jai. So at this point in time, we'll conduct our final Havan and we'll go straight into our Arati afterwards.
Oh
As we come to an end of tonight's devotion, we give thanks to God for the opportunity to congregate, to perform our puja, to engage in our bhajan and kirtan, to engage in our discourses. We seek forgiveness if there may be any errors committed. Lastly, we ask to have our desires fulfilled, all obstacles removed from our daily life. Mangalam Parameshwari Ma, Mangalam Mashitoshi Ma, Mangalam Sarvashakti Ma, Mangalam Durga Devi Ma, Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhu Chasika Tvameva, Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Mantrahinam Priyahinam Bhaktihinam Janardanam Yatpujitam Maya Deva Paripurnam Tarastu Me.